It is so hard here in the township. We are in a new South Africa, but we are still struggling.
I had a problem for breaking down because of having TB. I was seriously sick.
I'm unemployed, but I have a family to support. Sometimes I want to lose hope.
Drugs is all over the place. There's no place that you can go without a job.
After finding out that I'm HIV positive, I don't know how to feel. You have that disappointment.
Having nobody to help, oh, that is very hard.
The youth today are born with a legacy of violence and a lot of terror. There's no love.
Like everybody else, I do have dreams to make my life so much better. I have a hope someday that I'll just change it.
By influencing one person, you can influence the whole nation.
I'm stronger in my mind.
My soul has been changed, also my thinking.
I may live in this place, but my mind isn't living here.
It seemed to be the beginning of my journey in life.
Desmond will help me out with the questions, but maybe I'll start out. So thank you so much, Peter, for being here. Also, I was commenting. I was saying to Desmond before. There's something I really would like to say to you, which is yours was one of the first films I received, and it gave me that confidence to move forward and to do the festival and to get the same quality of films that yours has. Because when we start doing this, we really don't know how things will go. And then I got your film and I thought, okay, maybe this will go well. And in terms of content, I'm quite happy about it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. That's lovely. Thanks.
So I would like to start by asking you to talk a little bit about your background, professional background, how everything comes about in your world of filming.
Okay, just going back, I was originally born in Zimbabwe, and then I moved to South Africa.
Oh.
So I studied graphic design in South Africa, and then I went into advertising. So I spent the first part of my career was in marketing and advertising. I had an advertising agency, which grew to be, it was very big at one point. And I got tired of doing advertising because I was spending more time in the boardroom working out other people's problems than I was doing the creative process. So I sold my company to Ogilvy, which is a big multinational advertising agency, and I went into film. So I started with commercials, directing TV commercials and music videos, and then in 2008 produced the first or directed the first feature film that we did, which was a psychological drama. And then, yeah, the next one was Township Yogi, So Township Yogi, we filmed over a period of 5 years. It was a concept that my wife came up with. She was involved with yoga, and she was just trying to work out a way of trying to help the local people. You know, what happens mostly is that their funds come in from abroad to help the impoverished, and it feeds them for a day, and then tomorrow you've got to feed them again. So we're trying to think of something that was constructive, that would help people, you know, other than just food, but psychologically. So a mental help that not only worked mentally, but physically as well. So Al came up with the idea of Township Yogi, where we introduced yoga in the townships. And when we introduced it, most people hadn't heard of yoga. Most people we engaged in the townships. So I don't know if you saw at the front end of the film, it explains what a township is. So, and some of these areas are very impoverished, and they really struggle. So we introduced free yoga classes in the local community halls or any establishments that we could get hold of. And the response was amazing. So then we found 6 unemployed people and trained them as yoga instructors. So they did a full 6 months course on yoga instruction until they qualified. 2 of them were selected and sponsored to go to India, and they did a 500-hour course in India. So as yoga instructors, they're probably one of the most highly qualified yoga instructors now in South Africa. And then the idea was with these yoga instructors was that they would start their own classes, and they could then start to earn income from charging even a small amount for the local communities. And what we did is documented the changes in their lives, in their families, and in their communities. And that was the purpose of doing the film. And part of the purpose of doing the film was to try and get some funding to put back into supporting these yoga teachers. So at the moment, we have trained 16 yoga teachers who are now working in various countries. So we're doing South Africa. We've now branched into Namibia. We've had interest also further north, but the difficulty is coordinating it. You know, it has to be well coordinated, and when we start, it's got to be able to carry on. You can't start something and then it collapses. So, but that's where we're at, and the film has actually done really well in the film circuit around the world. So we're very pleased about that. Yeah, that brings us up to date.
Just a question. How did Blair Underwood get involved?
We were working through a government department, and one of the ladies there went over to LA, and she was at a film function in LA, and she was introduced to Blair, who was at one of those networking cocktail parties. And she spoke to him about Township Yogi, and he was fascinated, because part of the effects of yoga is increasing your immune system. So as you're aware from the film, KZN, which is KwaZulu-Natal, is the province that we're in, has the highest incidence of HIV/AIDS in the world.
Yeah, that's right.
And the problem with HIV is obviously it's an immune deficiency. And what yoga does is it increases your red blood cell count, and increases your immunity. So part of what we were doing was trying to increase people's immunity so that they could obviously counteract those HIV/AIDS. So the long story, coming back to your question, was that Blair Underwood has a clinic in America, which is an AIDS clinic. And so that interested him. So he expressed interest. He was flown out by the KwaZulu-Natal Film Commission to come and see the project. And then he worked with us on it. So he's a co-producer and he narrated it. So just mostly just out of interest, he and passion himself, to see the project work.
Desmond, would you like to ask anything right now?
Well, yeah, actually, I've got, as you're speaking, I started to think a lot, and, I've got questions. I don't know which one to start with. I have one on the film, and one on the distribution, and one on the impacts. So let me just start with the easy one first. Maybe first of all, I just want to say, Peter, I basically watched it first. I thought it was good, but now on the second watch again, I thought it was really, really brilliant. I mean, normally, on the second watch, I become a little bit more critical, but I thought, wow, you really extracted and really made this activism really explicit. Really, really nice. And with this also, there was obviously a lot of emotionality in this documentary, and I'm just wondering, just on the takes. I mean, it seems almost as if you did a first take on many of them. And how did you do it to produce that level? And let's, for example, the third case you had there, and she was I cannot remember her name, but she was really bawling in front of the camera, and I'm just thinking this is very hard to capture. I mean, so I'm just wondering how did you do it? How did you do it on so were they many of them just a first take, or to compile this kind of a narrative is not easy. How did you do it?
Yeah, many of them there was only one take, just simply because it was real. So you can't get an emotion on a second take unless you're an actor. So many of them were just questions that were asked, and in the environment and the way we set it up was to try and keep it really sincere.
Okay.
And when they touched that part of their lives that was meaningful, it brought out that emotion. So, apart from this COVID pandemic, in living in these townships is, these people basically suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder because it is so difficult. So apart from the lack of jobs, in South Africa, we have a 45% unemployment. Officially, it's over 50% in reality, but officially it's 45%. So you've got a lot of these people who are really struggling anyway, just to make ends meet. And in families, when groups, in those small houses, you saw some of them, those shacks, there are families that are living there that are kind of up to 8 people. So between 5 and 8 people living in a tiny shack. So again, with the pandemic on top of the social distancing is impossible. They have one water source for about 1,000 people. They queue every day for that water. So to get water from that water source. They have one ablution, so they queue to shower and to fetch their water. A lot of them will walk for an hour to the nearest river to fetch their water and bring it home. So, their lives are very difficult, even apart from the unemployment. So you get to that emotional rawness quite quickly because they are all really struggling.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you for that, Peter. I also wanted to, just to follow on this idea of this unemployment bit. I mean, when you talk about township, in tourism, there's a lot of, it's pretty much a bad word, the connection between township and tourism. And when you think of the connection between township and tourism, you usually go to this idea of what slums and tourism is. So this idea of slum tourism. And on one hand, I see the activism you're doing here. I'm just wondering the extent to which, and I've just checked out the distribution online, and I really found that you're very well publicized, and I think this is very, really a good work you're doing. But I'm wondering if this would be also, a case for people actually knowing about the townships in this way and saying, wow, isn't this a kind of glorification of this yogi or this yoga, and saying, hey, let's we romanticize it, let's go check them out, so then it might be a movement to actually promote this idea of slum tourism. And I'm just wondering, in your perspective, if this could be, a direction that this film could take. I mean, hopefully not, but do you see some of that happening?
I think it could promote it. There are, in certain of the townships in South Africa, they do guided tours.
Yeah.
Because a lot of visitors, until they've been into a township, don't realize the level that people are living at. So they do come on the tours. They take them to a local tavern. They eat the local cuisine from these taverns and drink the local beer, etc. So there are certain organized tours that happen, but not enough for it to make a difference. And the people who organize the tours, it doesn't really feed back into the township. It doesn't support the township. It's entrepreneurs who have realized that there's an opportunity here. So it's not coordinated.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, Peter, in terms of filming, what were the challenges, the biggest challenges you found? Because it was a long period for filming it. And yes. So what did you find more difficult about it?
I'll tell you what we wanted to try and bring into the film, which is missing, is controversy. And what happened was we had approached some churches to use their venues, local churches, to use their venues as halls in order to do yoga. And several of these fundamental churches felt that yoga was demonic, and they wouldn't allow us in. And we would love to have included that in the film, because a bit of controversy, and that makes a film more interesting. But we could not get anybody onto camera. And so it became difficult. They were quite willing to express their position and to have a strong stand against yoga, but to actually get them on film, we couldn't do it. So unfortunately, I think that is a part that's missing in the film, is having that that controversy. So that was a difficult part for us, and for me it's kind of evident that there's that part of it is missing, but so we could just never film it. We didn't have difficulty getting in and out the townships. So in terms of filming, often it was just getting the right situations and setting them up, and also trying to keep it real without making it contrived. But by keeping it real, you also want to get a quality of the filming that makes it not just cinema verite. So that there is a quality to the filming. So and I think we achieved that. We spent a lot of time in post-production just trying to get the quality of the cinematography right and the grading, etc. And I think the difficulty in filming was just the amount of time, and then coordinating the events to get the shoots done in the right stages. Mm-hmm. And the hardest part was doing it with no money. So we literally self-funded the whole project. So there was no funding. So that was the hard part, is trying to do a professional job with no money.
Right.
Which is always the problem.
So what did you gain from it? How do you think, did you think you somehow were changed with the film? Did it change you in a way? I think in these processes, usually they're quite, when you encounter these kinds of stories and you encounter these kinds of people with such difficulties, it has to change you in a way. That's my take on it. But did it?
Yes, it did. I would say it definitely had an effect. What it leaves us with is the sense that we can't do enough. There's not enough being done in the right place. And there's just in terms of helping the people in the townships and in these kind of slum areas, the kind of help they're getting is the wrong help.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, what happens in a lot of Africa, which you may be aware of, is a lot of the funding that comes in does not reach the people. And that becomes a massive problem with funders, because they're saying, well, I'm wasting I would like to contribute to something that's constructive, that has an impact, but there's no measurement. So unless there's some kind of a measurement, so I'm just trying to think to answer your question. Yes, we were changed, disappointed a lot of the time, just in the amount of effort that we were putting in to try and build something, how quickly without our support, it disintegrated.
Mm-hmm.
So we found that we just have to be involved the whole time to keep the impetus going. Otherwise, it will just break down. It won't work. So the hardest thing is to actually keep it going, and then to get funding just to support our instructors. So we do have some funders who give us money on a regular basis so that we can pay salaries to these instructors. A lot of them don't charge for yoga classes. We've got one of the guys is working with schools, and a lot of these schools that they have in the townships don't have extramural activities. They have no sporting facilities. So they were only too keen for us to introduce yoga into their classes. And so twice a week, the yoga instructors would go in, they would move all the desks out the way, and the students would do it. You saw some of that on the footage. They were just so happy because it gave the kids that kind of break. It helped them with their blood flow and stuff to concentrate. And they felt, the teachers fed back, that there was such an important part of the kids' curriculum, because it helped them so much. It gave them something to come to school for. Excuse me. A lot of these kids come to school because they get one meal a day, and that's the meal they get is at school. So a lot of them are just coming to school to get their meal. So it just gave them an added incentive. But I'm trying to circle back to your question was, did it change you? Yes. And it mostly it just made us feel, I wish there was more we could do. That's all. And that it could be a lasting, constructive change.
What I think is beautiful about your film, it's much bigger than the film itself. So most films have this theme and they go around it, and of course it ends there, but not yours. Yours is a project and continuum, and that's what's great about it, and it's beautiful about it. What would you like, in terms of what the film has been and the impact the film itself you've launched? When was it officially launched?
2020.
2020. Since then, do you think the film has impacted in practical terms in supporting the project itself?
Not through distribution, just through our efforts in social media.
Mm-hmm.
So just more people have responded, and there are donors that come in who have seen the film and who are interested in contributing, mostly from the yoga community globally. And that's been where the supports come from. In terms of distribution, we've just seen nothing yet.
Yeah.
So, and the distribution has been, it has been weak. Although we are with a reputable distributor, Desmond, you asked who's doing the distribution.
Yeah.
And I've just forgotten the name, but I'll remember it just now. But they've had it for, I would say, about 8 months now. We received one check for $160. So distribution's not working. What we did as part of our distribution contract was that we did sign in there that we would self-distribute. So we, on the website, you can go in and you can buy the film and download it. That is much more successful for us than our distribution.
Right. Minako, would you like to ask anything?
Minako,
your mic is off.
You're on mute.
You can hear me?
Yes,
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, Peter.
Yes.
Now it's almost ancient, but I lived in South Africa in late 70s, early 80s, so it's ancient. But when I saw that, township, is that the Soweto, part of Soweto?
Yes, Soweto is a township. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not much changed. Of course, even when I lived, I drove through, but never, actually got off the car, or even, I was then afraid to talk to people. But actually, I also myself do yoga for a long time. So yoga, what the yoga does for these people and the community is really amazing and heartwarming. How you started, you explained it's really from scratch. But what comes up to your mind? Why yoga? I'm asking.
It was because my wife went on a yoga retreat to I forget where it was. I can't remember.
Okay.
But she was on a yoga retreat, and
in India?
No, it was in. Oh man, I've just gone blank, and I cannot think of where it is.
That's okay.
It's not Taiwan. I might think of it just now, but anyway, it was overseas. She went on a 2-week yoga
she
retreat.
was maybe
Involved
very
with
much involved and moved by herself. Experiencing.
And then coming back to South Africa, she just thought, what can she do to help these people who are really battling, and just maybe this was something that we could introduce just to on a spiritual, psychological, and physical level to try and help the people. But that's how it was introduced.
Okay, yes. I'm very impressed, and since I know that those people in Soweto and Township. Yes.
I'll tell you what is interesting is that the very old ladies in the townships just love their yoga. So it's been fantastic for them. It gives them a chance to get together, and they do often for them, they're ladies that come and they can't do proper yoga, they do chair yoga. Just to get the stretching and to get the circulation going. They just love it. They love their yoga. And if the teachers miss one of the weeks, they complain. So they get really upset if they miss their, that's twice a week they have their yoga classes. But it's been good for them and for the little kids. So
of course, I saw that. Yes, it does good for everybody, really old people, even kids, or even a young man,
Yes, that's fantastic.
Okay.
So Peter, in terms of film-wise, do you have plans to do something else, or five years was enough for you?
No, we're in development on it's a TV series. It started as a feature film, but in a TV series, which is around the Zulu people, the Zulu uprising, going through from the beginning of the Zulu people right through to when the British overthrew the Zulu nation. So it was a period of 40 years. So it's virtually a Game of Thrones, but with the Zulu people. So that's what but it's historically accurate, and it's based on fact. And as I say, fact is stranger than fiction. Some of the stuff in there is hard to get your head around. But yeah, that's what we're working on. That's one of the projects. And then I'm also working on an animated TV series, which is also about wildlife in Africa.
Sounds interesting. Desmond, would you like to ask anything else? Or should we let Peter go?
Yeah, I'm good. I just wanted to say I'm running through your the website, and I thought it's really nice because I found resonance with the website and the film, and you translated it, in the film you use video, you captured it over moving image, and on the website I saw some really nice stills of what you used, and I thought it was a really nice juxtaposition, how the content was represented in that way, and I felt very comfortable that as opposed to some other kinds of what is his name, if you know the work by I'm just trying to Google it here now, the work by Photographing Cultures Before They Die, what's his name, you know that book, it is by yeah, it's coming to me now, but how as an academic, I always have all these, I need these names,
yeah. I've been several times on this call. I think it's there, but if I sit here and I look for it, it's going to keep you waiting.
I got it. Jimmy Nelson, before they pass away, you probably know some of his work, and
I would have seen it. Yes,
you would have seen it, and that he has that famous picture of the Maasai warrior, draped in red, with the spear and the shield. And on one hand, when I first saw this image, I was like, wow, really, captivating. And then I started to think about all the post-colonial elements involved and the way of seeing and the gaze. And I found it rather disturbing. And later on, of course, if you read the whole thread of the argumentation around this was it didn't go down a good way. But I mean, when I saw your website, I had none of that. So I found it really refreshing that the way you saw your representation of the subject was a very arbitrary, very neutral stance, and I felt great about it. So it's really a project that I could see resonance. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. What we did try to do was to make it uplifting rather than kind of focusing on the bad side of it, which is very easy. There's a lot of squalor and bad news. It was to try and make it uplifting and real.
Yeah, you certainly succeeded. So I think we won't take much of your time. Thank you so much, Peter, for being here with us. It's been a long time coming. I've been asking you to do this for a while, but now we got it, especially with two great guests, Minako and Desmond. Thank you so much also for being here and helping me with this. Peter, on the 10th, we will have the award ceremony. Best of luck.
Thank you. And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Nadia.
Well, thanks,
Minako, thank you. And thanks, Desmond.
Bye. Have a great day. Bye.
Yeah, you too. Thank you very much.
Bye.